So now just a few words about the differences between splice interval tables and splice tie tables. So we're back at our old friend U1338. We have loaded our splice intervals and our splice ties, or loaded one of them and converted it to the other. Splice ties are actually the older form that was used exclusively in early stages of splicing. Certainly in the later 100s and 200s and probably into the 300s in terms of legs and expeditions. And splice ties are really kind of for stratigraphic correlators. Let's take a look at splice ties. We can go down here and find the splice tie table. It's 1330. Okay, so the splice tie table basically presents the ties as they are recorded by the correlator. So on the left-hand side of the table, we actually have the bottom of a section, and on the right-hand side of the table, we have the top of the next section, core, that it splices to. So essentially, the top of the spliced splice column starts with 1338 hole A, core 1, 0, 1H10, and goes to 1H2, 1.97 or 2.01. Then it ties to B1H2 at 2.02. And then B1H4 ties to A2, and so on down the line till you get to the very bottom where C46 actually is appended to C47. So that's basically what the splice tie table is showing you, and it's useful for the stratigraphic correlators because you can see the position of a single tie point on one line. However, that's pretty inconvenient for some other things you might want to do, like figuring out where your samples are related to core section and interval and hole in a splice. So starting somewhere in the 2000s, I guess, or maybe even 2000 teens, that we started using splice intervals as well as splice ties. Let's go up here and we'll look at the splice interval table. 1338. Okay, so here's a splice interval table. So what you see here is, rather than a tie point being on a single line, now a core is on a single line. So, whoops. So now what we're seeing is that the first section of the splice starts at A10 and runs through A1 section 2 at 2.01. And then B, from B1 section 2 52 to B4 51. And again, so on down the line to the very bottom section, which is C47 at 23, section 1, 23 centimeters, and it goes to the bottom of core C47. So that's it. This is the kind of thing where, okay, you want to sample from the splice between 28 and 52 because that's the right ages. Now you can tell what hole you have to be in at particular depths and then actually calculate the core section interval. Now, in fact, there's a CODD macro that'll take care of that for you, which you can find in another video. So that's basically the difference between ties and intervals. They're the same, and depending on what you need them for, you may have one or the other. And we can go between one or the other. If you load intervals, for instance, you can change them to ties, or you load ties, you can change them to intervals. And that's done through here. There's a splice format conversion where you can splice tie data to intervals, or you can splice interval data to ties. One warning, and you'll see that in the other video, don't use the splice interval data from Janus. There's a systematic error, and it will give you all sorts of trouble. You can go to the data loaders for Janus and LIMS to see how you load these splice tables.